Hello and welcome. This is Phoenique Nicole from Rain on Purpose. And today's video is about finishing what your ancestors started. Now, most people don't like to talk about this, and it is a serious subject, but then you can have a great time pursuing finishing what your ancestors started. And what I mean is, many of us here in the US have lived a life with limited knowledge of our ancestry. We have to go and research and research and research and research and look over here and look over there and separate the lie from the truth. It's a sad journey that we have to unfortunately take, that this is something that we have to uncover on our own. Most people in the world, they can say, oh, my great grandparents came from here. And, Auntie so and so came from here. And, I remember growing up and, seeing the photo albums of, great, 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 great. And this one, that one, that one, back in, the 1800s. And many people that are just like me, we don't necessarily have that record. And it's not that, there's no DNA testing and people can't get information. The DNA testing, that's a whole other conversation. But many of us get stuck. We get stuck because we know the line goes so far. We know for sure that it goes back so many centuries. And so many centuries ago, our ancestors are living a different life than what we had here, what we're able to do, that we're free, that there's no shackles on us. But my love, there's shackles on your mind. It's invisible, and it keeps you from not being able to move forward. And when I say finish what your ancestors started, I mean that they put their hands to the plow. They did things that they had to do, whether it's 2 generations, or 10 generations, 100 generations, 1,000 generations. They had to succumb to some very harsh environments. But what I want to remind you is that you have a legacy beyond that. You have history beyond what you may know for the so many generations here on this land. And I want to encourage you that you might not be able to trace your history back to a certain place, a certain town or a certain city, and be able to say, that's where my people are from, because we weren't provided that information intentionally. And I want you to not allow that to hold you back. I want you to and be inspired to move forward and know that your ancestors have been here for hundreds of thousands of years, not just 6,000 years, hundreds of thousands of years. And I want you to take your time to realize that your ancestors were kings and queens. Your ancestors were some of the most amazing people, created languages, invented math, and different things that we have that we take advantage of today, different spoken languages. We have to take the time to know who we are. You have to dig deeper than what's provided for you. If someone robs your purse, do you expect that person to all of a sudden be generous and to tell the truth and be an upstanding person? So you have to look for the information yourself. But what I mean in finishing what your ancestors started, meaning that they started something with their bare hands. They wanted better for their babies that came into the world. They wanted to bring you up so that one of you would have the freedom to make the decision to whether you had a business, you wrote a book, you created a product that helped other people, or you just encouraged people, or maybe even employed people with your business. We have to take a deeper look in who we are. You're more than just a job. You're more than just a handful of skills. You're more than just what your job title is. Dig down deep and see and understand. Talk with God. Ask God what his intention was with your whole bloodline. Finish what your ancestors started. And I know when I've had a couple of my students and they're just, take the time, just stop, just pause. And unfortunately, it can be a very emotional experience. Heart-wrenching, anger, bitterness. And that all comes with this, unfortunately, with this experience, because the information isn't necessarily provided to us. But just remember, you come from a lineage of kings and queens, creators of language, math, and different things in this world that only you can take that ball and run with it, that you can finish what your ancestors started. They wanted one day for one of their descendants to be able to make it in life. Don't let what they planted the seed, and that seed was you. And over generations after generation after generation, their greatest hope is that you will persevere. Now, will you be that one that perseveres beyond all of the things that hold you back, the fears, the confusion? Will you be that one that pushes through to finish what your ancestors started? It's only a question that you can answer. It's only something that you can give life to. If you've thought about doing something with your life, starting a garden, or using the skills that your ancestors used to have, and you connect with them through touching the earth and the soil, and you connect with them by planting food and seeds into the ground and creating food, a garden, you can feed your neighbor, or and be able to have a craft, or have your own fruit vegetable stand where you sell what you create. Your ancestors had so much hope for you. Are you the one that's going to allow yourself to be nurtured? Are you going to allow yourself to be the one that goes to God and says, God, let me be the one for my bloodline to make it so that what my ancestors put their hands to, I'm going to finish what they started. I'm going to make sure that my ancestors see that there's something that I've created. And I did it with their help. Remember, energy doesn't die. Your ancestors didn't die. They're all around us in just a different format. Whether it's science, religious, or any other way that you can fathom, it all says the same thing. Energy never dies. It just it just dissipates into a different form, or moves into a different form. It's on a different level. And when your ancestors pass from this earth, they're just somewhere else, doing something else. They're learning something else. They have a whole nother life of learning and processing and doing different things. So today's message is finish what your ancestors started. If you can look at your grandmother's hands and see that she worked hard for what she had, and she's retired or almost retired, and you see her hands are just beat up from working hard and all the things that she's done raising children, and you look at her hands and you see that how hard she worked, that she still was pretty much poor when she died, or she's struggling and not barely making ends meet. And there's another way, and we have to be open to that. Look at your grandmother's hands, or find pictures of your grandmother. Look at her hands and ask yourself, is there anything I need to be doing? Is there anything that I can accomplish in my life? A lot of us don't want to ask that question, because grandma's hands, it's an amazing song. We love to sing that song. But when we look at grandma's hands and know she worked for decades and she's still struggling, or she struggled when she died and barely had anything left over, nothing to give. Most people die and only pass on debt. And I looked at my grandmother's hands, multiple grandmothers. I knew my great grandmother and lived with her, and she was an amazing woman. And I look at my great grandmother's hands. I know that she had an amazing life, but there's still something that's not finished. And only the chosen one in your family will be the one that will step up to finish that job. If you can look at your grandmother's hands and think your job is done, but most of us will look at our grandmother's hands or remember her hands and know that we need to put our hands to the plow. There's something more that we need to do for our family, for our bloodline. I just want to encourage you today to finish what your ancestors started. They're waiting for one person, at least just one person from your family, to be able to finish what they started with their blood, sweat, and tears. Literally, their blood pouring into the earth, their sweat that they were enslaved and mistreated. They want someone to validate their lives, to say that you worked hard and it was worth something. So hopefully I inspired you today to dig a little deeper, to find your purpose, to find why you're here. Ask God why you're here. What is it that he needs you to finish? What does he need you to accomplish? Because if you looked at grandma's hands, you know there's work still to be done. Take care. Bye-bye.